right, so welcome back to the Zoom room, Elaine. Good to have you here on this Easter Friday. So let's have a look at today's quote. We'll kick it off with the quote as normal, and then we'll dive into today's lesson, which is a review lesson. So there's 5 lessons incorporated into that. So let me share my screen with you. Yeah, so if you could kick it off with reading today's headline quote for us, please.
Yeah. What divides us pales in comparison to what unites us.
That's from Edward Kennedy. He was an American lawyer and senator, part of the very famous Kennedy family. His elder brother, John F. Kennedy, was president of the US and got assassinated. So interesting that someone like that comes up with this. What divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. So yeah, it just shows you the truth is everywhere. It's reminding us that the principle of unity based on perfect oneness or love is far more powerful than the idea of division based on separation. And what we just discussed in our expression session, it's really about learning to apply this very simple, yet sometimes elusive and easily forgotten truth to every aspect of your life. And that's why we do spiritual practice. That's why you're doing the Art of Letting Go program. This full realization application, what Yeshua calls full transfer of training in A Course in Miracles, is what will help you to be consistently happier, more in flow in your life, more peaceful, and more loving in every aspect of your life. So that leads us nicely, very short, sweet intro into our session and today's lesson, which is a review lesson. So maybe just to start, we'll just read the introduction to the review, which just gives us how to practice it. We need to read this. You'll let learn. So no, maybe just read. We will learn from number 5. No, okay, just read it from number 1. We won't spend long on this.
What, I'll read one paragraph, then yourself will sort of do it that way?
Yeah, we can do it that way if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So shall I start off? Yeah.
Yeah.
Beginning with today, we will have a series of review periods. Each of them will cover 5 of the ideas already presented, starting with the first and ending with the 5th. There will be a few short comments after each of the ideas, which you should consider in your review. In the practice periods, the exercises should be done as follows.
So begin the day by reading the 5 ideas with the comments included. Thereafter, it is not necessary to follow any particular order in considering them, though each one should be practiced at least once. Devote 2 minutes or more to each practice period, thinking about the idea and the related comments after reading them over. Do this as often as possible during the day. Any one of the 5 ideas appeals to you more than the others, concentrate on that one. At the end of the day, however, be sure to review all of them once more. Okay, so just giving us instructions, reviewing it. It's really contemplation or reflection, this. Just read it, contemplate on the ideas for a couple of minutes. And so you're just reprogramming your mind, starting to just let this this teaching infiltrate and just permeate into your subconscious through this kind of practice. Yeah, number 3.
Yeah. It is not necessary to cover the comments that follow each idea either literally or thoroughly in the practice periods. Try rather to emphasize the central point and think about it as part of your review of the idea to which it relates. After you have read the idea and the related comments, the exercises should be done with your eyes closed and when you are alone in a quiet place, if possible.
Yeah, so it's kind of a meditation. Think about it, contemplation. In the Christian tradition, that contemplatio was a tradition of reading Bible verses, scripture, and then you would contemplate on it. So it's the same idea. Now, this is emphasized for practice periods at your stage of learning. It will be necessary, however, that you learn to require no special setting in which to apply what you have learned. You will need your learning most in situations that appear to be upsetting, rather than in those that already seem to be calm and quiet. The purpose of your learning is to enable you to bring the quiet with you and to heal distress and turmoil. This is not done by avoiding them and seeking a haven of isolation for yourself. So what's he saying in that one?
It's just living your life as normal, no special settings. And the purpose is to enable you to bring the quiet, even if it's in turmoil and distress.
Mm.
So it can't
Idea
be
of going somewhere. A lot of people are like, well, I have to go to India to be enlightened. This, makes a nonsense of that. It's saying, you can do it wherever you are. And in your daily life, if there's distress and there's turmoil, then that's exactly where this practice is needed. Remember, the course was given in New York City to two psychologists who were very much in the ego's world of stressing, straining, and striving. It was given to them to help them out of that. So it's meant to help us wherever we are, not as something you have to go away and do in a quiet haven of isolation. The whole point is, whatever comes up and triggers you is what you need to forgive. And you need those forgiveness opportunities, as we call them, in order to really learn this. So actually having a life where there's lots of triggers is more helpful than a haven of isolation, because your stuff's going to come up and then you've got to let it go. Okay, and then number 5, you will yet learn that peace is part of you.
You will learn that peace is part of you and requires only that you be there to embrace any situation in which you are. And finally, you will learn that there is no limit to where you are, so that your peace is everywhere as you are.
Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, what you were talking about in the expression is really that. It's just having that peace. Ideas never depart from the peace. So as you advance in your practice, it doesn't matter what happens, you stay in peace. That's really the biggest sign of spiritual awakening. Can you stay in peace no matter what? When you find your peace being disturbed still, then you've still got something to let go of and therefore something to learn.
Yeah.
You'll learn that there's no limit to where you are, so that your peace is everywhere as you are, right? So you are one with everyone and everything. You're not limited to being a finite person in a body, subject to all the laws of time and space. You are the pure awareness that is everywhere. That's the universal oneness that the quote pointed to, which all enlightened beings talk about. That they tap into the oneness that underlies everything, and they ultimately perceive only that. That everything is that awareness, just disguised as a person or an animal or a plant or a rock or a sky or whatever is happening in the world of form is just a projection of the ego that's covered over that awareness. It's all been projected onto the screen of pure awareness. Yeah. So we see these images on the screen, but the pure awareness that underlies them is still there. That's why it's called a veil of illusion. Actually, there's only that awareness, but the images make it seem like there's a lot going on. And actually, it's just this pure awareness that underlies it all. Okay, and then number 6, just he's saying that for review purposes, some of the ideas are not given in quite their original form. So he's saying just use them as they're given here. Don't have to return to the original statements or to apply the ideas as was suggested then. And importantly, that this is emphasizing the relationships between the first 50 of the ideas covered and the cohesiveness of the thought system to which they are leading you. So you start to see that it's all connected. And I have to say, particularly in this first review, that really comes across very strongly. Because you kind of go, okay, well, if you put them all together and you do 5 at a time, you do really start to see that they're all part of one thought system, that they all interconnect and interrelate. I mean, you're studying a thought system and you're just getting different aspects of that thought system in each lesson. That does really start to come through in the reviews, which is why the reviews are important. It's important that you do review. That's why he's made it a big part of the course. The first part of the course, there's lots of reviews. So, well, you need to go back, review, and in the review, something else will come. You will learn these ideas on a deeper level, maybe start to connect the dots more. Okay. So, I think that prepares us nicely for the lesson. So let's look at that. This is review lesson 4, lesson 54. These are the review ideas for today. So, shall I read the original? You read the alternative?
Yep.
Let's do it line by line. So, I have no neutral thoughts. Neutral thoughts are impossible because all thoughts have power.
I have no neutral thoughts. Neutral thoughts are impossible because all thoughts have power.
They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one.
They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one.
But thoughts cannot be without effects.
But thoughts cannot be without effects.
As the world I see arises from my thinking errors, so will the real world arise before my eyes as I let my errors be corrected.
As the world I perceive arises from my thinking errors, so the real world will arise in my perception as I let my errors be corrected.
You notice really all we've changed there, seeing becomes perceive.
Yeah.
And perception, which is more holistic, more expansive than just seeing. And he does use see a lot in the course, but most of the time he means not just
package,
seeing. He doesn't mean what you're seeing with your body's eyes. He means what you're perceiving.
The whole, yeah.
Yeah, all of your senses. So, the world I see, it's the world I perceive with all my physical senses. That's why we use perception. It's just more all-encompassing and inclusive. And perception is very much about thinking. The world I perceive arises from my thinking errors. Perception is not a fact. Perception is an interpretation of your sense perceptions. So you get the sensory data coming in, and then you interpret it, and that is what we call perception. Which isn't reality. That's just your particular version of reality. You take the sensory data and you interpret it in a certain way, and you say, okay, well, that's now become my experience and my reality. And he's saying, well, how do you know that's real? You don't. It's just your interpretation of the sensory data which is coming in, and that sensory data is a projection of the mind. So it's all hallucination. You project it out there, you think it's there, then you interpret it as real, you perceive it as real, and you've put yourself in a prison of perception, and you don't even know that that's what you're doing to yourself. That's what he's really saying here. And so I have no neutral thoughts is starting to get to the base of the prison and say, well, it's actually your thinking that's done this. Because thinking creates projection, and then thinking is also the perception of the projection. It's all thought. Just the projections happen on an unconscious level. We don't know we're projecting consciously because it just seems to happen to us. But actually, all of this is thought. What is energy? Most scientists can't answer that question. What is energy? Well, it's the fundamental substance of the universe. And what is it really? It's thought. Energy is projected thought. Get it? So we're surrounded by energy. What is energy? Thought. Energy is projected thought. Okay, now I'm perceiving my projected thoughts through thought, and I'm making that all real. But can you see, I'm just in a thought system. That's all that's happened. I got myself caught up in this massive matrix of the mind, which is all thought, projected out, seemingly now real in form, but it's still thought. And now I'm perceiving my thought projected as real.
And my thoughts when they're not.
Yeah.
Well,
and none of this is neutral because all of this establishes that separation must be true, that I really am a separate person perceiving this world around me and interacting with it. And that the experiences of the separate person in a body are real. And so none of the thoughts that I have are neutral because I'm either thinking that in the being in the person identity, which creates this whole personal experience of a reality, or I'm letting go of that and I'm transcending that level of thought and I'm going into a higher level of thought, which we call awareness, pure awareness.
Yeah.
So I have no neutral thoughts. My thoughts are either perpetuating the illusion or they're taking me to the truth, as he's pointing out here. My thoughts cannot be neither true nor false. There must be one or the other. What I see shows me which they are. And just read the alternatives of those last sentences.
Yeah, so as the world I perceive arises from my thinking errors, so the real world will arise in my perception as I let my errors be corrected.
Yeah, and then my thoughts cannot be neither true nor false. So my thoughts can only be true.
Yeah, there must be one or the other. What I perceive shows me which they are.
So very, very clearly saying, it's one or the other. You can't make both the illusion and the truth true. You have to choose between them. And that's a very critical point because there's many teachers and teachings that say, well, they're both true. There's the illusion and that's got some kind of reality. And then there's, ultimate truth, but both are part of, the whole that we'd call truth, and both are then therefore real. This is apparently the alternative school of non-duality, as I discovered from a conversation I've told you about. Okay, so the illusion can be as true as the truth, and they're both true. And we try and fudge it and make both of them real and true, even though they contradict each other. This is just saying you can't do that. There are no neutral thoughts. It's either true or false. And you need to choose. You need to decide. You need to make up your mind. Because that's the only way you're ever going to get clarity and the peace of mind that clarity brings is by deciding for, for one or the other. If you decide for the untruth, then you still split your mind because there's always going to be the truth there. You can't obliterate truth. It's always going to be there. The only way out of the dilemma is to let go of what's not true. Let go of what's not true and accept what is true. And that's awakening. Okay. So any other thoughts on that one, Elaine? I mean, these are great. I really like the reviews have their own power. You read the original and then you read the review. You're like, wow, what he's saying here is really profound and but just short and punchy. In one sentence, there's so much packed into these.
Yeah.
Which is why they're valuable to really study in their own right. That's why he says don't go back to the old ones. You've been there, done that. Just focus on these. Okay, so second one, which was lesson 17. I see no neutral things.
I perceive no neutral things.
Again, it's just broadens it from just visual sight to the whole of your perception. So what I see witnesses to what I think.
What I perceive witnesses to what I think.
If I did not think, I would not exist because life is thought.
If I did not think, I would not exist because life is the foundational awareness that makes thought possible.
Yeah, so you see, I changed that quite a bit. I thought, oh, life is thought is dangerous. If you put a capital T there, then maybe life is thought, because then capital T thought is pointing to a higher kind of thought, which we could call pure awareness. But life is thought is potentially can be really misinterpreted. The ego as reality is entirely based on thought. So the ego is with a capital L. Life is the foundational awareness that makes thought possible. Okay? So without that awareness we call life, there could be no thought, and that's true. Yeah. You need a foundational awareness which can then think. So does the translation make more sense to you?
Yeah, sorry, I kept losing you there.
Yeah. Sorry, I saw my internet was unstable. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do not think I would not exist because life is the foundational awareness that makes thought possible. And this is really what it comes down to, So there must be a foundational awareness from which all thought comes.
Yeah. Yes.
As a foundation. And this is where people who deny the existence of God or some source, whatever you want to call it, can't really explain then where consciousness came from. Okay,
No.
so apparently all matter and energy burst into existence in one blinding flash they call the Big Bang.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's the one free miracle that Rupert Sheldrake talks about in his critique of the scientific materialist paradigm. Okay, so you get one free miracle, and then we'll take it from there. But where did that come from? Okay, so all matter and energy comes into existence in one instant. So how did that happen? Where did that come from? No, we have no idea. We just accept it as true. This is the scientific materialist paradigm. It says, okay, well, it's true, and now we'll just go from there. It's ridiculous. You're like, so what's the foundation of it then? Where did that come from? Well, we can't explain it, but never mind about that minor inconvenience. Let's just focus on now how everything. Now we focus on the how. That's what science does. Yeah. How did it all happen? How did the universe unfold? how now do all the laws of this apparent universe work? But we won't ever consider the question of why. Well, why did that happen? Was there something deeper that underlay that? And then because then you're in the domain of philosophy, aren't you?
Mm.
Rather than science. Okay, so why did it happen? So
The big
then
question.
you have to come to this realization that there must have been some foundational awareness that preceded the Big Bang. Otherwise, where did it come from?
Mm.
How could that just, okay, so it was nothing. Okay, well, so maybe that nothing is not nothing. It's no thing. Okay, language fails you at that point, doesn't it? It's no thing. There's no form there, but maybe the nothing is something so incredibly profound that we've overlooked it.
Mm.
Uh, Focusing on the form, the things now of the world, all the projections of the mind. If as we discussed, it's all just energy is just projected thought. We focus on all of that and we forget the foundational awareness that preceded all of that, which is God. And that's what's happened. Science has just glossed over that, forgotten, well, there must have been a foundation, a source out of which then the Big Bang came. Then it gets even more interesting with the non-dual teaching, because then the non-dual teaching says, but whatever came from the idea of separation is just an illusion. It's not true. So that whole Big Bang and the projection of thought and now the perception of all of it is just false. You're in a false thought system, dreaming that this is all true, but it's just a dream.
Mm.
You made it all up. Actually, the foundational awareness from which it all departed, split off, the mind split off from that foundational awareness in the moment of the separation, which gave birth to the Big Bang. That foundational awareness is still there. And that can never be touched by thought. Whatever you're thinking in the dream world, it doesn't have any bearing, any effect on the foundational awareness. It still remains exactly the same as it always was. That's the non-dual teaching. That's what the high spiritual teachings say. Okay, so let me look on the world I see as the representation of my own state of mind. Then, next one. I choose
Uh,
to perceive the world.
yeah, yeah. Um, where am I? I perceive
Choose
no.
to perceive the world.
I choose to perceive the world I see as the representation of my own state of mind.
I know that my state of mind can change.
I know that my state of mind can change,
And so I also know the world I see can change as well.
and so I know the world I perceive can change as well.
You see, when you make it perceive, it becomes really, really obvious. Well, perception is just perceptual. It's in the mind. It's not what you're seeing with your body's eyes. It's how you perceive it, how you take the data that comes in to your physical senses, and then how do you perceive that? And that's not neutral. You're perceiving it either from the ego or from the Holy Spirit.
Mm.
So I can change my perception. I change my thoughts, I change my perception, I change my reality. How do you change the world in an instant? You change your mind about it, you change your perception. That's so simple, really, when you think about it, when you can see it.
Mm. Yeah.
But a lot of people wouldn't understand that. So you can't change the world in an instant. That's really Elaine?
Yeah, I lost you. You just disappear. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Okay, we're back. Okay, I'm back. Elaine, can you
Oh,
hear
yes,
me?
I'm here. Yep, yep. Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, internet
yeah.
issues, dropping the connection. So let's go back. Yeah, so really, I mean, this is simple lessons, but very, very profound stuff. We've just gone, through these two lessons to the very heart of the illusion, talked about, the Big Bang and how that must be a dream, and that all, everything we see here is perceptual. So it's not real. If it can change, the world I perceive can change as well. It can't be reality, okay? Because reality by definition is permanent and unchangeable. So we're living in an unreal illusion there that's perceptual, and there's no stability or solidity there, which is why the world changes all the time. And one moment to the next, you can be really happy one moment, and then something comes in and you perceive the world differently, and then you can be very unhappy, and that can happen in a minute.
Mm.
Well, how's that reality? That's clearly not. It's just your version of reality, which isn't reality. Okay, so any other thoughts on number 2? I see no neutral things, or I perceive no neutral things.
No, that's clear. Hmm.
Okay, let's go on to number 3 then. So I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing.
I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my perception.
If I have no private thoughts, I cannot see a private world.
If I have no private thoughts, I cannot perceive a private world.
Even the mad idea of separation had to be shared before it could form the basis of the world I see.
Even the mad idea of separation had to be shared before it could become the foundation of the world I perceive.
Yet that sharing was a sharing of nothing.
Yet this sharing was a sharing of nothing.
I can also call upon my real thoughts, which share everything with everyone.
I can also call upon my real thoughts, which share everything with everyone.
As my thoughts of separation call to the separation thoughts of others, so my real thoughts awaken the real thoughts in them.
As my thoughts of separation call to the separation thoughts of others, so my real thoughts awaken the real thoughts in them.
And the world my real thoughts show me will dawn on their sight as well as mine.
And the world my real thoughts show me will be revealed to both them and me.
Okay, and read it from the top.
I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my perception. If I have no private thoughts, I cannot perceive a private world. Even the mad idea of separation had to be shared before it could become the foundation of the world I perceive. Yet this sharing was sharing of nothing. I can only call upon my real thoughts, which share everything with everyone. As my thoughts of separation call to the separation thoughts of others, so my real thoughts awaken the real thoughts in them, and the world my real thoughts show me will be revealed to both them and me.
Okay, thoughts on that?
Which is saying that none of us have private thoughts. It's it's a mad idea of separation.
Which is one of the major ideas of the course, actually, which is introducing here. This lesson. That we have this private world of our own perception that separates us off from others, and that's the whole basis of separation. But if I really have no private thoughts, then none of that exists, and I cannot perceive a private world. And I start realizing that my real thoughts are the same as everyone else's. So we're not talking about normal egoic thoughts, I subject, perceive you object. That's all false thought. When we go into that pure awareness, we realize that awareness is the same. That, thought with a capital T or awareness is identical. Everyone actually shares that awareness. Just most people aren't aware that that's their awareness, but it is nevertheless the truth of who they are. And then when we're in this state of higher awareness, we see this everywhere. The world our real thoughts show us will be revealed. And we start perceiving everything in the light of this awareness. So everything takes on what we could call a holy light. There's this awareness, we see this awareness everywhere. From this awareness, we see this awareness everywhere. So this awareness recognizes itself in everyone and everything. It's another way of saying that, and realizes that actually we're the same awareness. That's the unity experience that all the great spiritual masters and teachers have had. It's the same awareness. So there is really only unity, and I am one with every person, every animal, every plant, every sentient being in the entire world and universe is one and the same as me because we share the same foundational awareness, God. At that level, we're all the same. And that's the world our real thoughts will show us. Okay. So pointing to the unity consciousness that is the hallmark of awakening, of enlightened experience. And lesson 19, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts.
I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts.
I am alone in nothing.
I am not alone in anything.
Everything I think or say or do teaches all the universe.
Everything I think, say, or do teaches everyone.
The Son of God cannot think or speak or act in vain.
An extension of perfect love cannot think, speak, or act in vain.
He cannot be alone in anything.
It cannot be alone in anything.
No, I cannot be alone in anything.
I cannot be alone in anything.
It is therefore in my power to change every mind along with mine, for mine is the power of God.
It is therefore in my power to change every mind along with mine, for I have the power of perfect loving awareness.
Yeah, from the top.
Yeah. I am not alone in anything. Everything I think, say, or do teaches everyone. An extension of perfect love cannot think, speak, or act in vain. I cannot be alone in anything. It is therefore in my power to change every mind along with mine, for I have the power of perfect loving awareness.
Yeah, so thoughts on that?
Well, like the title says, we're not alone in experiencing the effects of our thoughts.
Hmm.
We have
Because
the power of
there's
the
only one mind. If there's only one mind, then our thoughts must go into that mind and affect the entire mind. So you have a negative thought, you think that's only you being affected, but it's actually the entire sonship, as he calls it, the entire mind of the extension is affected by the negativity, or conversely by positive thoughts, by happy thoughts, that also affects the collective quite profoundly. So that's why in groups and whole, societies, companies, groups, organizations, societies, you see there's a collective consciousness or culture, call it a culture, because we're not alone in experiencing the effects of our thoughts. The sum total of the thoughts and emotions of everyone in that group, organization, society, however big the grouping is, then goes to make up that group, and there's a vibe. You're going to some companies, and there can be a very negative vibe or a very positive vibe. I've had both experiences.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not alone experiencing the effects of my thoughts. We can see that. We can experience it for ourselves in these kinds of experiences. So my thoughts contribute to the whole. If I go, let's say, to work, and I'm really negative, I'm gonna be affecting the whole atmosphere of the company. And if too many people do that, then it becomes very, very negative. Likewise, if I'm really positive and enthusiastic, that is going to spread. That's going to ripple through, because that's going to be communicated in my words and my speech and my actions, and that's going to affect others in the company. Almost, it's a no-brainer. I mean, what he's saying is obvious, but he's stating the obvious for us because we're so clueless in our egos that we've forgotten these simple truths. We think that we are alone in experiencing the effects of our thoughts. Our thoughts aren't going to impact the whole. But, of course they do. Which is why, that he has from an ethics point of view, if everything that you're thinking is affecting the whole, then you need to watch your thoughts. Never mind your action. You need to really watch your thoughts like a hawk, because every thought is affecting the whole. So I'm having a negative thought, that's then instantly going into the whole and affecting everyone. Whoa, okay. So I have a bit of responsibility here. Am I pouring toxic waste into the mind of the Son of God, the extension of perfect love through my thoughts, or are my thoughts clean and pure and holy, and these are thoughts that are beneficent and helpful for the whole? That's the question, which is this lesson really highlights, hopefully brings it to our awareness. So yeah, really simple idea, but very profound. And these simple lessons are really, really, look at how deep each lesson goes into the truth. That's the extraordinary power of this course. It's like a simple paragraph, just has so much depth and profundity. Just really packed. I don't highlight these, but in the Telegram group, I'll highlight. Everything's highlighted. See that, the bold. I'm like, okay, well, like, what do you leave out? It's all really profound. So I end up like highlighting most of it.
Yeah.
Because all of it's important. There's no fluff. He's not, oh, okay, well, that's just like a bit of a pointless sentence. Like everything is meaningful, power packed, and these paragraphs are really, really succinct summaries of truth. Okay, so any other thoughts on number 19? Happy to go on. Last one.
Yeah.
So number 20, lesson 20 originally. I am determined to see.
I am determined to perceive truly.
Recognizing the shared nature of my thoughts, I am determined to see.
Recognizing the shared nature of my thoughts, I am determined to perceive truly.
I would look upon the witnesses that show me the thinking of the world has been changed.
I choose to perceive the witnesses that show me the thinking of the world has been changed.
I would behold the proof that what has been done through me has enabled love to replace fear, laughter to replace tears, and abundance to replace loss.
I choose to behold the proof that what has been done through me has enabled love to replace fear, laughter to replace tears, and abundance to replace loss.
I would look upon the real world and let it teach me that my will and the will of God are one.
I choose to perceive the real world and let it teach me that my awareness and pure formless awareness of perfect love are the same.
Yeah, from the top.
Yeah.
Read the original, the key ideas as well.
Yeah. I am determined to perceive truly, recognizing the shared nature. Oops, I have to keep pinching it out. Recognizing the shared nature of my thoughts, I am determined to perceive truly. I choose to perceive the witnesses that show me the thinking of the world has been changed. I choose to behold the proof that what has been done through me has enabled love to replace fear, laughter to replace tears, and abundance to replace loss. I choose to perceive the real world and let it teach me that my awareness and pure formless awareness of perfect love are the same.
Okay, thoughts on that?
Just letting us know that we all share the same thoughts, and we want to, or determined to see it differently, perceive it truly. So we see the witnesses that show us the thinking of the world and how it's changed.
Yeah, I like this lesson, and there's actually quite a few. There's in between lesson 20 and 30, he really emphasizes this.
Mm.
I'm determined to perceive or to see. I think that lesson 21 is I'm determined to see differently. So he's emphasizing that it's a determination to change our minds. And that's where the reversal of thought begins. You have to be committed to it, determined to do it, and he's really calling on us to do that. So it's not easy because what we're talking about is a complete 180-degree turnaround from your existing thoughts, identity, reality, worldview, everything. Right? It's got to be turned in exactly the opposite direction from the one that you've gone along, but it starts with a determination to do that. Without that determination, nothing's going to happen, is it?
No, no. Well, everything's just so automatic with the thoughts that you have are fairly
Yeah.
repetitive, and you know,
Hmm.
so it's it's addictive and repetitive. So it is a case of not engaging with them and sort of reframing and rewiring it into this thought system.
Yeah. Saying I'm determined to do that. So I may not do that much at all. I mean, you start the course and you're at lesson 20. Okay, now you're reviewing. You've done 50 lessons. You have just started this whole process. So it's all very new and there's still going to be lots of ego and lots of vacillation. But um, what he's trying to do is build our determination to change this, to correct it. So I'm determined to perceive truly. I may not perceive truly now, but I'm determined to do that. I'm determined to change my mind. no matter what it takes. I must change my mind, i.e., I must forgive or let go, no matter what seems to happen. So he's trying to build that determination in us, because he knows if we've got that determination, then we'll do it. If we don't, and we kind of half-hearted about it, wishy-washy, then it's not going to happen, is it?
No, no.
Because the chips will go down and something will happen and the ego will come in. And if you don't
Hmm.
have this reminder, like I'm determined, okay, this is exactly what Jesus told me. It's going to be difficult. And the ego's, wanting me to think in this way, but I'm determined to perceive it differently, to perceive truly in this situation. That thought interrupts the ego's pattern, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm determined to change my mind. There's an awareness there that, okay, I can actually change my mind here. May seem to be difficult, but it starts with the willingness to do it. And that's what he's highlighting here. He's trying to build that in us. And so a lot of the course is just designed to build our motivation to change. He says at one point in the text, a good teacher's really sole responsibility is to create and foster a motivation for change in the student. Because if you want to change, if you're really determined to change, then you will.
Mm.
And if you don't want to change, then nothing in the world is going to make you change. You
No,
have the
no, of
greatest
course.
greatest teacher in the world. I mean, look at what happened with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The greatest master who ever lived is there in their midst, and they're listening to him, and they don't want to change, so they don't. There's no willingness to change anything, and so his teachings just were wasted on them. It was only the more humble people who said, "Okay, I don't actually know. This guy's got something to teach me, and I'm willing to learn and make some changes." Who became his disciples and followers, who then could benefit, because they were willing at first, and then maybe that willingness developed into determination as they spend more time with them. I'm determined actually to do this because I want something more in my life. I want to be more like this person, more like my teacher than the old self. So again, really, really simple idea, but incredibly important and powerful lesson, because we have to be determined to do this, otherwise we're never going to do it. He's telling us here it's not going to be easy.
No,
Lesson
no.
20. So it's given us a lot of the mind training ideas in the first 20 lessons. In lesson 20, okay, so now let's talk about your motivation to do this. Are you really determined to do this? When we start off, probably not so much. We're a bit flaky.
Mm-hmm.
But as you go through the course, and he keeps reiterating this, and you keep practicing it, you do become more and more determined. You're like, yeah, because if this is the only way out of hell, then there's no real choice, is there?
No, no.
Okay, well, it's this or nothing. It's this or hell. So I've got to do this. I'm determined to change my mind and perceive truly. I remember when I went through a really difficult time 10 years ago. So when I came to the UK and Gabriel was born,
Mm-hmm.
um, I really had to dig deep and say, okay, this course has been interesting so far, and I've learned
Mm-hmm.
something, and I've kind of got a bit of a spiritual ego going because I teach it, but like now the chips are down. Like I've got to do this. And my determination to do it was critical. It's like, okay, I've got to do this. This is what's going to save my life, literally. I have to really start to practice and apply and learn these ideas so that they're not just theoretical, nice ideas in a course, but that these actually save my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's when we start to really learn the course, because we realize we have to, because we realize that it's actually for us to save us from the hell of the ego.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really about, yes, you can teach it to others, and that's does come as part of your function sometimes, but it's really about saving you. And I really got that. It's like, okay, this is about, saving me from the hell of the ego, which I'm experiencing quite strongly now. This is the way out of it. So I've got to get this. I have to learn this. There's no other way. Then you become really determined because you're like, well, it's the only way I can see out of my help. So I'm determined to perceive truly. Again, such simple words. That's 6 words, but so profound. Those words are life-changing if you really mean them. Because if you're
Yeah.
determined, then you will. And if you're not determined, you won't. People say, oh, well, I'll try. No, do it or
No.
don't.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
try means you're not committed at all.
Mm.
It's an excuse to
Half-hearted.
say, well, I'll try, but actually, if someone says that they're not going to do it.
Mm.
Whereas I'm determined to do it. I may not succeed straight away. Okay, I accept that. It's really difficult. Like this task of totally reversing my thought system. Yeah, I might make mistakes. I might vacillate. I might not get it right straight away, almost certainly, but I'm determined to do it. No matter what it takes, I'll learn this. I'll do it. Then you're going to be a proper student and you're going to learn his course. So he's trying to build that early on in these determination lessons, I call them. There's 4 of them, I think, between lesson 20 and lesson 30. So we'll get to the others tomorrow and the next day.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, any other thoughts on those 5 lessons? Maybe let's just quickly review, just read each
The only
key
thing
idea.
is, I'm going to have to dash because I've got a few things to get ready. I've got the lady coming tomorrow. So do you
No,
mind?
that's fine, Elaine. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just wrap it up by reading the key ideas of each one, just so you can see how they all fit
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
Leave it there.
Okay. Right. Are you starting? Are you
No,
doing?
you just read them. So I have no neutral thoughts
Okay then. I have no neutral thoughts. I perceive no neutral things.
because I have no neutral thoughts. You see how it
Yeah.
sequentially follows logically.
I am not alone experiencing the effects of my perception. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts.
So it's really, relating thoughts and perception. Saying, well, actually, they're just 2 sides of the same coin, which
Yeah.
is why these ideas follow in the sequence they do. And then finally, I'm
Yeah.
determined
I am
to.
determined to perceive truly. Yeah.
It's a really nice set of 5. You've got the truths coming in a logical sequence, and then at the end, he's running it out and saying, okay, so I'm determined to do this. I'm determined to change my mind and actually put into practice these lessons. Because the theory is one thing. Okay, well, it's truth or illusion and understanding all this, but determined to see is determined to perceive truly says, I must do this. So yeah, on that note, I mean, it's a good determined
Mhm.
note to
It
close the
is.
session, go
Yes,
into the end.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No vacillation. Let's just go for it.
Yeah, well, you'll be tempted. You see, saying yes, I know you'll be tempted. I know there will be vacillations, but if you remind yourself of your determination, so in some ways, lesson 20 is almost the most powerful in the entire course
Hmm.
because without the determination to do it, you won't do it. So all the theory doesn't, won't help you if you're not actually determined to learn this and to do it. So that's quite an interesting take. I'll leave you on that because some people say,
Mm.
well, which lesson's the most important? You could argue that lesson 20, lesson 21, I'm determined to see things differently. And then there's 2 others. I think it's lesson 26 and 27, 27 and 28. Also, above all else, I want to see. Above all
Mm.
else, I want to see differently. Same lesson, same, just different language. So he's done 4 lessons about determination.
Mm-hmm.
Those are maybe the most important in the whole course.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that determination, you're just going to give up, aren't you? You're not going to do
Of
this.
course. Yeah. No, it's very important.
So yeah, just be determined, no matter what. It's really that
Mm-hmm.
determination to say, no matter what happens, no matter what the temptations are,
I
I'm going to let it go, because
This is
that's the
true.
only way out of hell. It's the only way I can live functionally and peacefully
Mm-hmm.
in what is hell. This is as he says, this is the creation of the ego, miscreation of the ego is a hellish world. So how do you live in any kind of functional peaceful state? Well, you have to be really determined
Mm-hmm.
to maintain that and to
True.
change your mind.
True.
Otherwise, the ego is going to get you. And
It's true. Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Very
so
good.
good luck with that. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Reinforcing your determination. Keep practicing, and I will see you next week. Wednesday probably. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be good. Yeah.
do Wednesday evening, shall we?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. 6 o'clock or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Usually good for
that should be fine.
the
Yeah,
earlier evenings better for me rather than later. Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. We can start that at 6.
Yeah.
No problem.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Very
mate.
good.
Enjoyed the session.
Happy
Oh
Easter.
well. You too.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that is a wrap for today. Thank you to Elaine for joining, making the session more than a monologue. I hope you enjoyed it. So a couple of things you can do if you would like to take your journey further with me. Go to vaolg.com. We're busy about to relaunch the Art of Letting Go program. So I'm offering a free masterclass early in May. You can also go to lifepool.com and sign up there to receive a daily inspirational quote I showed you, the lessons, some meditations on the lessons, some other mind training material and resources, as well as invitations to these live Zoom calls. So that all happens via Telegram. You can sign up at lifepool.com and receive all of this completely free. And finally, if you liked the video and you'd like to be notified by YouTube whenever I go live or whenever there's a recording, then just hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever whenever I go live, and you can catch it on a recording if you missed the live session. So hope to catch you on the inside of the group, Telegram group, maybe one of these live sessions, the masterclass soon. Wishing you, in the meantime, a very peaceful, happy, and flowing Easter weekend ahead. Namaste. Which means the true Christ self, given it's Easter, the Christ self in you acknowledges and honors that same Christ self in you. Wishing you much love, peace, and joy in that self.